Now, the City game against Crystal Palace, which was on Sky Ireland and which I watched, was extraordinary, Liam. The first thing to say that people may not realise is that Guardiola picked John Stones, who is a centre-half, to play the holding role in midfield, which was a strange decision. He also had Otamendi and Laporte as his back two. And then, of course, he doesn't really have a full-back. Fabian Delph is a former midfield player. He played left-back. And really, people will say Palace were lucky, but they weren't actually. They looked a bit weary, City, Liam. The press wasn't there. The only big name he left on the bench, Aguero and De Bruyne, brought them on later in the game. The only player you could say was really big player that was missing was David Silva. But it was a kind of strange performance. Townsend scored an amazing goal for Palace. It'll be goal of the season.
It was. Yeah, I didn't see it. You saw the live match. I saw the highlights, and I read about it as well. And Palace defended deep and denied them space.
Yeah.
Jesus for me is not as good as, nowhere near as good as Aguero.
No.
I think if you analyse the game, I think probably Guardiola maybe underestimated Palace a little bit. Maybe thought that this was going to be a routine win.
Yes.
And left the likes of De Bruyne on the bench and Aguero, and strange back four. Otamendi hasn't featured much this season. We all believe he's a weakness because we've seen him make mistakes time and time again. And if anything, maybe it was a little bit complacent of Guardiola to pick that team.
Yeah, I thought so, Liam.
It's opened the door big time now for Liverpool, hasn't it?
Yeah, I just can't see John Stones as a midfield player. Now, people said afterwards, a lot of people said it proved how important Fernandinho is to City because he didn't play. He wasn't available. He was injured. I'm not sure that's the answer. I think Fernandinho is a useful enough holding midfield player, or puts his foot in and wins tackles. But I don't think he's the key to Manchester City. Do you?
No. Where we saw in the World Cup how poor he was, Fernandinho playing for Brazil. Now, I don't think he's anything wonderful by any stretch of the imagination. I think Stones probably playing there was part of this complacency I'm on about him that Guardiola has shown from time to time. Yeah. And it backfired, but you have to say, like, the goal Palace got by Andros Townsend was incredible, wasn't it? We won't see a better goal than that all season. But City, Otamendi, Laporte, Delph playing left back. Most of the time in the Premiership, City can get away with maybe tinkering with the teams, but Hodgson is a wily old manager. He's good tactically. He denied them space even when Aguero came on. I thought Palace defended really well. They got a lot of people behind the ball, defended deep, and maybe someone like Silva is the player that City are missing, because when things get tight and there's a lot of bodies in and around the 18-yard box, you need that guy with the imagination that Silva's got to come up with a little bit of magic, a little bit of a 10-yard, 5-yard pass in behind people, which he has done time and time again. And I think he's a big miss for City at the moment. Yeah,
interestingly, one of the things that happened, and I never thought I'd see it, is City started lumping it in the box, a la Martin O'Neill. And in fact, the second goal they got, De Bruyne's goal, he was on the touchline and he lumped one to the far post. The keeper misread it. It was in the back of the net. But going back
that was a cross, wasn't it?
It was a cross, yeah. Going back to Jesus, he had a great chance, a header, which he didn't take, and that was very significant. Now, a 4 points gap. People were saying maybe a month ago that City were going to run away with it again. They're going to find it hard now. You've played in championship teams. I want to ask you about this, Liam. The thing about Guardiola is he seems to be happy to play pretty average defenders. Laporte can't get in the French squad because Deschamps doesn't rate him. Otamendi is a disaster waiting to happen. Walker is more an attacking wing back, really. And Fabian Delph, it doesn't seem to bother Guardiola that he doesn't have somebody of the calibre of Van Dijk. You know, and you played in Italy, Liam, against the likes of Maldini, Cannavaro, Baresi, these great Italian defenders, and we've seen them generation after generation. Would you agree with me that I don't think Pep Guardiola rates those guys? I think he thinks the game is about something else altogether.
Well, even if you look back when he was managing Barcelona, he didn't really concentrate on defence, and they used to give up. They used to, concede goals because of that. Especially at set pieces, they weren't very good at set pieces. Barcelona at that time.
That's right.
And he's always gone for the philosophy of we'll outscore the opposition.
Yeah.
And that's great. That's the kind of football people want to see. But there are managers out there who can, come up with a strategy that sometimes can frustrate City.
Yeah.
Liverpool did it in a different way last season when they beat them. Liverpool got right up against them, pressed them.
Yep.
They knew City were going to try and play out from the back. They won the ball up high, and they beat City in the Champions League twice. Palace did it a different way on Saturday. I mean, they sat back and just crowded the area out and denied space. But going back to the City's defence, if Guardiola had all his players available, Laporte, Otamendi and Delph wouldn't be playing him, and I think there was a bit of complacency in his lineup on to not play Aguero, not play De Bruyne. Mahrez wasn't playing either.
That's right.
He might have got his selection wrong. Whereas if Liverpool makes changes, maybe it's just one or two, but not on the scale that Guardiola does.
Yeah, just last point about defenders and how the great defenders are really important. When you get into the Champions League, Liam, and they're playing the top teams, whether it's Liverpool, whether it's Juventus, Bayern Munich, and that, you do really need quality defenders that they don't have. Vincent Kompany, perhaps, apart.
Yeah, well, you see, Kompany's getting on in years. He's had a lot of serious injuries. Yeah, and they've not replaced him with a player as good as him. No. I know he's still at the club, but he doesn't play that much. It's very interrupted. His appearances for City in the last couple of years, but they're few and far between. Eamon, even the likes of the Italians are still relying on Chiellini and Bonucci and these guys to play. And we saw Liverpool go season after season and not address that problem. Yes. And when they finally did, and they came up with Virgil van Dijk, well, he's totally transformed that team. It's amazing to see his influence and his leadership qualities. Yes. And everybody's benefited from the fact that he's there. Now, City do not have a defender of that class. They don't have a defender of Vincent Kompany's class, and they don't have a defender of Virgil van Dijk's class, and they must be kicking themselves that they didn't go in and get him.
Yeah.
But maybe your view on Guardiola is that he probably said, "Oh, we'll win a different way." But you need defenders. You absolutely need defenders.
I mean, nobody knows that better than you from your time in Juve.
Well, when I played in Italy, and it's gone on ever since, is that the defenders have great pride in stopping their opponent. They used to get man-for-man marking jobs, and when they'd come in after a game and their opponent hadn't scored, they felt that their job was done. It was up to it was up to people up the other end of the pitch to get the goals to win. But if they denied their their direct opponent a goal or didn't give him a sniff, as they say.
Yeah.
They felt they really had a real pride in how they defend.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure that's around at the moment. You know, the Italians have that mentality, but other. I think the Portuguese winning the Euros, Eamon, showed that, you know, you can win football tournaments and being very, very strong at the back. That's what they were all about.
Okay.